What's up, everybody? Flaw from the Hootcake here with you, and I'm going to be doing a deck profile on my post-Lord of the Tachyon Galaxy Madolches. There are 3 proxies in here for the Madolche Hootcakes. I'll go over all that kind of stuff as I get to it. But yeah, on my channel, my deck profile for the beginning of this format's Madolches did really well, so I thought I would bring something similar over here. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the post-Hootcake Madolche and how I'm playing them, how they've been testing well for me, and I'm also going to talk about some other stuff that I really like and that I'm considering in the deck. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and get into it. The deck is at 40 or 41 right now, I can't remember. One of the common misconceptions in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that you have to keep things at exactly 40. I actually don't like 40, especially in a deck like this where I'm running 3 copies of my Madolche Hootcake and 3 copies of my Madolche, because I don't like opening multiples of either. So when you run that 41st or 42nd card, sometimes it really helps. I discovered that when I was playing Dino Rabbit, which, you know, one of that deck's inconsistencies or problems is that it can be inconsistent with its draws, and you can draw vanillas when you don't want them. However, I discovered that by going up to 42 cards, I drew my vanillas less, and my draws were actually more alive more often. So that's kind of the mindset that I'm using here. I'm also using some lessons that I took from playing Floater Beat to kind of really influence the way that I play this deck. One thing about this deck is that pretty much everything in it floats, which is really nice. Between the Madolches recycling themselves and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we're gonna get into the deck. We'll talk a little bit about it. First off, we run 2-card Cardi. This card just gets me to my toolbox and my engine a little bit faster. You really want them. You want a Hootcake in your hand, and you want a Madolche, or you want any monster in the grave for its effect. So having cards that can go directly to the grave is really awesome, because before I added this in and a couple of other cards that I'm going to talk about, I had a problem with having Hootcakes in my hand but no monsters in grave. I'd have to torrential my own board to get a monster in grave so that I could use Hootcake the following turn. With this, I can go card E, draw 2, and more often than not draw into a Hootcake, and I have a live Hootcake the following turn, or if not, then the turn after that as I keep going. So yeah, 2-card E, it's absolutely essential in this deck. I really don't think there's anything you can use to replace it. Then for the Madolche, I have 3 Madolche Madolines. She's your Stratos. There's still no reason not to run anything that lets me just add whatever I want to my hand. There's just absolutely no reason not to. So 3 of her. These are my these tokens are my my Hootcake. he's kind of what makes the deck now. In the previous format, the problem that Madolche had was that they were really slow, and they struggled against decks that were really fast. And as I'm kind of banking on us not getting the small elemental dragons, and with that being the case, the elemental dragons are not as big a problem for this deck as they were. Prophecies just tutor a lot, and that's about it. And Murrells can explode, and this deck, actually, believe it or not, as long as people are playing Cursion builds of Evil Swarms, this deck blows Evil Swarms out of the water more often than not, because, I mean, Queen's a card, and this card makes Queen. And if you can protect this card or Queen, you pretty much, you just blow them out of the water every time. So yeah. This guy right here makes the deck. I think this deck will easily be, it won't be tier 1 status, but it'll definitely be like tier 1.5, and it's because of Hootcake and what he does for the deck, once you know how to play it. And then for the rest of my Madolche, I play 2 Messengelato and 2 Cat. These guys used to be essential combo pieces. Your big play used to be, you know, summon Cat, summon Messengelato, get your field spell, get your ticket, and just start plussing and get hand advantage, and just kind of grinding out resources. You still do that sometimes in this deck, but you don't do it near as much. Now you more often than not you wanna put a card in grave, then go Cat for Hootcake, banish that monster, and then just start doing stuff. So I cut those both to 2 because another cool thing about this, and it's been said before by other people, Hootcake is basically the 3rd copy of any Madolche I don't run 3 of. So yeah. Then I run 1 Croissant. Croissant has always been just kind of a beater for me. He allows me to go into my rank 3 and 4 toolbox a little bit, but for the most part, he's always just been a good first turn 2300 beater, or 1800 beater. I don't know. I almost cut him from the deck completely, but I feel like you just need one. I was needing one more monster, and so it was him that I threw in. And for the rest of the monsters, I run 2 Max C, because it's a card that can go to the grave whenever I want. Basically, I can start my turn and just go Max C, Cat, Hootcake, do stuff. I mean, I go minus when I do that, but sometimes when you really need to make a play, you have to make a play, and that's what Max C lets you do. So 2 Max C, and then 2 Trag. I had 2 Veiler in here, and then I traded away my Veiler, and added Trag back in. And I kind of like Trag more, especially when you have a first turn card ID and you draw into it. That's basically you sacrificing your turn for protection and some advantage. So she stops you from getting OTK'd. It's really, really good in this deck. I had it in my old build. I took it out because I had problems with me setting my hand too much and her being dead. I still run into that sometimes because I do still run a pretty fair amount of traps, but I still like Trag in the deck. It also lets me go into my rank 3 and 4 toolbox and steal monsters, which is nice. So, on to the rest of the deck. We have the spells. There we go. I'm running 2 Chateau and 2 Ticket. In previous builds of Madolche, in pre-Hootcake builds of Madolche, you run 3 and 2 because these cards are what keep you alive. They keep your hand advantage. They keep your hand alive. They keep you with plays and ways to go into your toolbox and all that kind of stuff. Excuse me. While you're grinding out resources. You don't want your Madolche going back to the deck, and you want them... I mean, these two right here basically just... They help you set up what you need. They let you tutor your hand. And yeah, they're just good cards. I still think Chateau is the best field spell in Yu-Gi-Oh! But that's just me. I'm running triple space. I like 3 MST right now. Again, I'm banking on E-Dragons not getting the baby dragons in the TCG. And I have a good feeling that we won't. I mean, I could be wrong, and if I am, I'll adjust. But I feel like 3 MST right now is really good. With Prophecy getting Judgment Day, they're going to have to set a lot of cards. And they don't get a lot of protection. They run a lot of cards. Fire Fists are getting more spell and trap support, and sometimes you just need answers to all that. Mermails will still be a thing. Evil Swarms will still be a thing. And Macro Rabbit, I believe, will still be a thing for at least a good while. So, and Macro is easily this deck's worst matchup, so you just kind of... You use the space to get rid of that. To back up the space, where the rest of the deck go. I set my spells down and they vanished. Ah, there they are. Sorry about that. I run the Heavy Storm, I run the Monster Reborn, and I don't run Dark Hole, I just run these two. Monster Reborn lets me steal my opponent's boss monsters after I found ways over them. Heavy Storm is Heavy Storm. Again, decks are setting more now, and they're not running as much protection. Starlight Road seems to be seeing a fall-off in play from what I'm noticing. 2 Forbidden Lance, this is a late edition, but I've discovered that especially against Prophecy being so popular, you make your queen play and you try to make a push, and they flip I can't remember the one, but basically they banish 3 spellbooks to banish your monster. You can chain this to that and just keep your monster alive. Being, Prophecy are a deck that don't do much. They search a lot, they put some pressure on the board, but they don't put a lot of pressure on the board, if you get what I'm saying. And what they try to do is they just try to rely on their ability to tutor their hand however they want, get rid of your threats, and just poke you for 25 and 35 for game and stuff like that. Make big eyes sometimes. So I feel like this card is really, really crucial. And then finally, I'm taking in 1 Soul Taker. I really like Soul Taker right now. It gets rid of Priestess. It at least forces them to waste something to protect their Priestess, and that can help you grind through back row. I think a skill that's going to be really important in the upcoming, as the format grows, is how to grind through back row. I also discovered that I really like this card in pre-Hootcake builds because Mermail were a thing, and Catastor is a problem. Abyss Megalo can be a problem. Abyss Gaios is a huge problem. So it's just not running. It's a spot Dark Hole. I like it. Dolka is also a problem. I just kind of like it more than Dark Hole right now because I don't want to wipe my own board because this deck can put a lot of power and a lot of presence on the board really, really quickly. So yeah. 1 Solemn Judgment and 1 Solemn Warning. I almost want to cut Judgment from the deck because I have to pay so much life, and paying half your life right now is just... It's something you can't afford to do in this deck. Much like in Floater Beat, you really don't want to pay too much life because you're going to have to accept the fact that you're going to take some hits, you're going to take some damage. So Solemn Judgment will possibly be getting cut to the side deck or just cut out altogether. The Warm Warning I don't mind. I'll just put up with losing 2k life sometimes, especially if it gets rid of like a Lad or a Thunder King or something along those lines. So yeah, 1 Starlight Road because you have to protect your back row. I still run a lot of back row. 2 Torrential Tributes. Torrential is probably my favorite trap right now. It just does so much for the deck. 2 Bottomless Trap Hole because it's bottomless. When those new worms come out that are immune to bottomless, I may cut this to 1 and put the other in the side because I have a feeling that deck's going to see a lot of play. Especially now that people are discovering you can splash it with Insectors. So we'll wait and see how that comes up. That's at least September before that's going to happen. So I'm going to play that by ear, but right now I really like 2 Bottomless. I tend to side one out against Prophecy because the only thing that you can really hit is Priestess and Breaker, and sometimes they'll waste a Wisdom on Breaker, but more often than not they won't, so I don't know, it's not that great. Then I run 2D Prison. I'd almost like to bump this to 3 because it's an out to these Big Eye Turbo and Lad Turbo decks. It's a really good card. It's also insanely good against Mermail, so, and Dino Rabbit, so we'll see. Plus, anything I can use against Evil Swarms to force them to waste their Pandemic spells is really, really good. The double Mirror Force, because Mirror Force is awesome. Another one of my favorite traps. I really wish this and Torrential would go to 3. And lastly, one Madolche Palooza. This is the last card in the main deck. I had this at 2, then I had it at none, then I had Ultimate Offering in here, and I ultimately decided to cut Ultimate Offering because what Ultimate Offering did was it enabled OTK plays and enabled to keep yourself alive when the deck had to play slow. With Hootcake, the deck can actually play pretty fast, and so I feel like the Ultimate Offering isn't as necessary. So I'm testing without it right now, and I'm actually liking the deck without it right now. I mean, if you resolve it, it's usually still game, but I still don't like. I still kind of like the one Palooza better. Chances are good that Palooza will be coming out, and Ultimate Offering will go away as well, but I'm still testing this deck to see how it's going to change. Things that I'm considering for the deck, I'm considering adding a second Croissant. Even though I do tend to side that one out, sometimes it's just nice to have that hand presence. I'd also like to consider, I'm testing as well 2 Tour Guides, because it puts monsters in the grave for Hootcake. It gets in my rank 3 toolbox, and it's just an overall good card. And one Wind Up Rabbit, I'm considering this card as well because it floats so well. And one problem you have in this deck sometimes, if they can get rid of your Chateau and your field spell, is maintaining board presence and getting answers while trying to do stuff. And you can do some really cool tricks with this guy and your own Torrentials and things like that. He basically just floats really, really well. I can put him in the grave practically at will. Sometimes I'll let him die. I've tested with him in the deck. Sometimes I'll just let him die so I have ammo for Hootcake, and then I'll Leviair him back later. So I am considering this card in this deck. He actually does have some synergy with it. He lets you get into your toolbox, and he floats really, really well. So yeah. I'm going to move on to my extra deck now. I'm not going to show off my side deck because I don't know. I'm waiting to see how the format shapes up before I go into the side, so I'm going to hold off on that. But I run one Stardust because I run the road. The rank 3s that I run are Zenmaines, Temtempo, Leviathan Dragon, MX Saber Invoker, and 2 Leviair. I like the 2 Leviair, 1 Invoker play better because the only time you really want to make an Invoker play is when you're making the early game Hootcake push. More often than not, when you get into your mid and late game, you're going to have Madolche in your grave, so you can do the Cat Hootcake play. Then you can banish your Madolche, usually a Messenger Gelato, and you can get out another Messenger Gelato, get your search, then you can Leviair and get your other Messenger Gelato back. That gives you options for other rank 4s besides Queen. It lets you make Heroic Champion Excalibur sometimes, and really, really do some damage for game. So I like the 2 Leviair, plus you can steal opponent's threats. I feel like people going, I've seen people going 2 Invoker and Leviair, but in my testing, especially with people citing Macro against me, Macro and Defissure against me, I feel like 2 Leviair is actually a much better option. For my 4s, I run 1 number 50 Black Shepherd Corn, 1 number 16 Shockmaster, 1 Maystroke. These are mostly just staples, really. 2 Madolche Queen Tiramisu's. She's your boss, why wouldn't you? She's recyclable and she recycles herself, so there's no point in running 3. 1 Excalibur because, like I said, 2 Messenger Gelato on board happens when someone's at low life sometimes, and you can just punch for 4K. Plus, he's... I don't know, I feel like 4K is a really... being able to punch over big monsters. Chaos decks can be a problem sometimes, so being able to punch over a BLS sometimes is really nice. Gaga Cowboy because he steals games, and Abyss Dweller because Mermails are still a thing. So yeah, guys, that's the main deck. I said I wasn't going to go over my side, but now that I'm thinking about it, I am going to talk about some things. I'm putting Dark Hole in my side deck. I guess these decks that like to make Big Eye spam and just rank 7 and 8 turbo, it's nice to have that world wipe. Transmigration Prophecy is also a really good card right now, so I've been citing this for a while. Dust Tornadoes and Mind Crushes I feel like are still really, really good cards. Snowmen are really great for the Evil Swarm matchup that's going to be a problem. And then I'm still citing for my I kind of carried this over from my Rabbit, 2 Cyber Dragon and 1 Chimera deck. I feel like those are all really necessary because Teleport Karakuri are a thing. Plus, machines are going to see a comeback with Gear Gia, getting new support, and people are discovering that full machine deck is a thing. Plus, 10-plate Goldfishes. It's going to make gadgets relevant again, I think. Not that they ever weren't, I guess. But yeah, guys, so that's my Madolche deck profile. It's been a little bit long. I'm sorry about that. Hope you guys have enjoyed. Hope you've learned something. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. I will answer both on the YugiCast channel as well as on from my personal account. So if you get something from Dark Flaw, that's me. I'm the guy that did this video. Be sure to check out our live stream, our twitch.tv page, and our Twitter page. I'll be putting information for both of those below. And I will see you guys next time. Have a good day. Peace.